The Virginian by Owen Wister is widely considered to be the first Western novel. With the mountains and plains of frontier Wyoming as a backdrop, this book paints a picture of the Old West that might be unfamiliar to modern moviegoers. Wister's frontier is less gritty, with a sanitized kind of violence that would draw laughs today. But it set in motion many of the tropes and themes of the American Western, from the showdown to the strong, silent cowboy as protagonist. We live in New Mexico, but somehow neither of us had read this groundbreaking novel. So let's pop open a bottle of Wyoming whiskey and see how this 120-year-old book holds up. It's time for episode 46 of Toasting the Classics, The Virginian. Welcome to Toasting the Classics. This is the podcast where we take something that people call a classic, we talk about it, drink something inspired by it, and decide whether it still gets to be called a classic according to the likes of us here.
Like classic cars, classic houses?
It could be. Could be. Free choice.
Ugh.
On that free choice week.
That'd be difficult. It'd be hard to get a car in here.
It would be. We'd have to sit in the car and drive it really fast.
Or we could do like one of those old fraternity pranks where we take it apart and put it back together again.
In the room?
Yeah, in the room.
There you go.
I think they've done that before.
So what are we doing this week?
We are doing your
pick.
pick.
Since I foisted it,
yeah.
I will let you talk about it.
Oh, okay. Well, we are doing your pick. It is called the Virginian, a Horseman of the Plains.
Did not catch the subtitle, actually.
Yeah. Published in 1902, written by Owen Wister.
Owen Wister. Did you learn anything about Owen Wister? I actually didn't take the chance to read anything about the author.
I did.
I did read a little bit I read the book.
Okay.
I did actually read the book. I read about the book, but then I was like, I should have looked up Owen Wister because I have no idea.
Well, first of all, this is a really long book. Do you have something to drink?
Not too bad.
I hope you have something to drink.
Yes, I do.
I need a drink.
As I said last time, I told everybody, I hope you got some Wyoming whiskey. I would not have driven all the way down to El Paso for Wyoming whiskey, but I happened to be there, so I stopped into Total Wine.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, it's good. I had a couple sips of it while I was camping with the kids, so I hope...
I can tell you a little bit about it. I think the person who put together the mash bill was the master distiller for Maker's Mark at one time.
But this can't be a bourbon.
It is a bourbon, yeah.
I thought it can't be a bourbon if it's not made in Kentucky.
It can, yeah. You can.
I thought that was like champagne or something.
Well,
like that.
No, it's a bourbon. It's an American bourbon.
Oh, okay.
It's not a Kentucky bourbon.
I literally thought that it couldn't be called that, but there it is right there. Small batch bourbon whiskey, distilled, barreled, and bottled in Kirby, Wyoming. I don't know where that is.
But
big fan of Wyoming.
It doesn't say, like I said, it doesn't say Kentucky whiskey. Just like you can't say Tennessee whiskey for anything made outside of Tennessee, right? But it's a really good whiskey. Definitely recommend it.
It is good. It is good. I took the kids camping out near Carlsbad over the last couple of days because they were out for the week.
Yeah.
Got a cabin at the KOA Carlsbad, which is 30 miles past the town of Carlsbad, which is 20 miles past.
It's actually going towards Hobbs, I think.
It's almost to Artesia.
Yeah, Artesia, rather.
It's way up there. Yeah, it's towards Roswell and Artesia.
I could have told you that.
I didn't know. I didn't think to look up, was the Carlsbad KOA actually anywhere near Carlsbad?
White City would be a cool place to stay because that's where the caverns are.
First time I came to New Mexico, the first place I ever went camping was White City because we just went directly to Carlsbad Caverns.
Right.
I'd never been in a desert in my life, and we camped right under the lights at White City, and the tent was just covered in bugs. I got stung by a scorpion while I was sleeping. I was like, I don't think I like the desert. And I can't imagine myself ever living in a place like New Mexico.
Everything in the desert is trying to kill you.
Yes.
Cheers, by the way.
Essentially. Cheers. Anything particular about the Wyoming whiskey that you know? 88 proof?
Just that. It actually tastes a lot like Maker's Mark. I mean, it really does. It's.
Let me give it a shot.
Sure.
Haven't had it on ice. I just had it in a solo cup in the cabin with the kids. Had a little taste.
Had it in a sippy cup?
It smells pretty strong.
Yeah.
88 proof is pretty strong, I guess.
Yeah, it actually is. Maker's Mark's about 95.
Oh, that's good. It's not sweet.
Yeah. No, it's a high rye, I think is what it is.
That's what it tastes like, yeah.
So it has a lot of rye in it, a little peppery.
Yeah, I wish I knew where Kirby was because I really like Wyoming. Wyoming's like one of my favorite
I've only
places.
been to Cheyenne. Cheyenne's the only.
Cheyenne's kind of a dump, honestly. Cheyenne's just sort of a small town. I mean, it's fine, but it's kind of run down and seedy. There's a couple of towns in Wyoming like that. What is that other one? Rock Springs is very similar. It's out in western Wyoming.
Okay.
And it's just sort of an old mining town that's just kind of seedy and creepy. The rest of the state is beautiful, when you get out of the towns. The towns in Jackson, Wyoming is a really nice place.
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
Otherwise, the towns are not Wyoming putting its best foot forward. Laramie is a dumpy little.
I've heard that about
It's
Laramie.
a college town. You'd think it would be cool.
Right.
It's okay, but it's not.
The novel is set in Wyoming, which is what we're talking about. Wyoming.
That's right. That's why we have Wyoming whiskey in front of us today.
So why don't you give us a summary?
Novel set in Wyoming. There's a little bit of Idaho, a little bit of Montana. Essentially Yellowstone country.
Yeah, Yellowstone. So give us a synopsis.
The synopsis is that a narrator, who I don't think we get a name for him, from the East, comes out west to work with a judge. Unspecified reasons why he works for the judge.
Not work. He's there as a guest.
Okay, but why?
But he's doing... Well,
what is he, a newspaper man or something? I
the
didn't
judge
really
invited
understand.
him. Well, he's a dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he's from New York. And
We need to get into what a dude is at some point, because there's a couple... actually, I don't think it gets used that much.
No, well...
There's a lot of other ones. Cowpuncher,
tenderfoot.
rustler.
Well,
rustler.
He's a tenderfoot.
He's a tender. I know what a tenderfoot is.
Okay.
Tenderfoot's clear.
But it's sort of it's intimated that the judge is from back east. They are a well-heeled people. Okay. Because the judge goes back east. Matter of fact, he was a guest of the narrator back east, and they had dinner and everything else.
Okay, so maybe he's just visiting. They're just...
I think they're friends. I'm assuming they're family friends or something like that, because this guy seems younger. I think at one time he mentions he's
I think so.
Like 20
he's about
or
the
something
same
like
age
that.
as the Virginian.
I think he's younger than the Virginian.
Okay.
Definitely
Virginian's hovering around 30, a little bit this
24.
Side, this 20 side
24,
of 30, right?
24 when he first meets him, and then he's like...
And it goes on for
like
several
29.
Yeah, that's right.
29.
That's right. The book goes on for several years because the woman strings him along for...
God, we're going to
years and years.
We're going to get into that.
Reminded me of high school.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But
if you're out in Wyoming on the frontier and there's literally one woman in town, she can choose her fella. Right. So I guess she can do what she wants.
So we have the narrator.
Yeah. So the narrator comes out to stay, meets this guy, the Virginian. The relationship between them, we'll talk about that over the course of the show. But he's just kind of fascinated with this guy, the Virginian. That's just this Western BA. For lack of a better word. I mean, the guy's got a low brewing conflict with this one bad rustler that he knows.
Trampus. What a great name.
Trampus. I thought it was Trampas. Is it Trampas or is it Trampus? Is he just like an Anglo dude? Okay, I wasn't sure about that one. I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to, whether there was a Latinx read on the character.
There wasn't for me. That would be a bad read if it was. He's kind of a jerk, and
Well, you could be bad and be Latin. I mean, there are Latin people that are bad. There are some that are good.
But he would be
of course,
the
he'd be the only one
Latin
in the
person.
the only
He'd be the evil
And we
guy.
know the natives. The natives don't get portrayed terribly well.
No, they don't.
There's this low-grade conflict with him. They have some sort of Western adventures. I don't know. I mean, what are some of the things? There's some sort of anecdotes that happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these kind of hokey, countrified anecdotes.
Right.
Where the guy's really good at avoiding conflict and establishing his dominance through pranking people, essentially, like tricking them, like telling tall tales, like lots of stuff that frontiers people are supposed to be good at.
Yeah, but he's a really good cowhand, right? Or
really good cowhand, really good leader of men.
Leader of men, right?
He essentially falls in love with this woman. There's a brewing romance between them that goes on for years within the span of the novel. It takes up maybe the middle portion of the book.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. It's very difficult to understand the way this romance comes together.
Courting was definitely different back then.
Courting was definitely
You didn't swipe left at all, and then just go make a booty call you.
No, it was way more complicated.
You had to bide your time,
Yeah, you could be half dead in someone's house for weeks on end without there being any romantic content whatsoever.
I think you kiss once.
Right,
and then pass out.
Finally, yeah.
And then a couple of things. Right. So the Virginian, that's the protagonist of the story, right?
Right.
Trappist is the antagonist, probably the main antagonist. There's a few others,
sort of
kind
the
of
antagonist, the native people, sort of the West in general.
There's
is a bit of an antagonist.
Oh gosh, what is the guy's name?
Shorty.
No, not Shorty. The guy that beats horses.
Balaam.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Gollum. A few antagonizers, I guess. So the Virginian is the archetype cowboy, good guy cowboy.
Yeah.
Okay. And what makes this novel what it is? Why is it considered a classic? Because this is the first appearance of the archetype. Okay.
In a novel.
Well, prior to this,
we can trace.
Prior to this, you had dime store type of cowboy type
Blood
of thing.
and Thunder epics about Kit Carson and guys like that. And there's
Doc Holliday and stuff like that.
Right.
But this guy's qualities are he's tall, dark, and handsome.
Right.
He's brooding.
Mm-hmm.
He's quiet.
Right.
He's wise, though not educated. Strong and powerful leader, natural leader.
Huh.
I said quiet, man of few words.
It's like a man's man.
Man.
A man's got to do what a man's got to do kind of mentality.
He just innately knows how to do everything, right?
Right.
How to lasso, and he can do it better than anybody else. He
Exactly.
can lasso and shoot and just do everything that you need to do. But he's also loyal. He's chivalrous. He's morally upstanding.
Yeah.
Okay. He's enterprising.
There's some hinting that he's got a darker past in terms of his moral.
Well,
like he used to gamble.
Well, but he has
that last conversation with the narrator towards the end, and he's talking about how they got to topics of sex, and I was like, "Wait, what? Did you just write sex in this book? Because this book is so chaste all the way through."
Right.
I was like, go back to that? What are you talking about? Like,
right.
Where were they going with that? But anyway,
yeah, I don't know. But I think it
slightly
hints
more dissolute.
Well, it hints
youth,
that he's been around because he left home at 14, and by the time he was 20, he said he
was he 14 when he left his home? Okay,
something like that, and he'd been to like all the states.
So what year? This takes place in the 1870s to start. Is that about right? I'm trying to remember what.
I thought it was the 1880s.
Could be.
Maybe.
He says his father and his 3 older brothers were in the Civil War.
Okay.
Fought in the Valley in '64.
Okay.
But I think he was too young to have fought in the Civil War.
Could be set in the 70s then. Yeah, you're right. 1870s.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but it's not too long. They don't talk about the Civil War a lot. That's, I think, the only time it really comes up. Except they call him Jeff, which is supposedly for Jefferson Davis because Jefferson Davis is not from Virginia. But
I know. The South. I think there's just this broad South.
Yeah, maybe. That's which is strange because you would think a lot of those guys out there on the frontier would have been Southerners.
Right.
I mean, just because of how people would have ended up after the war.
Yeah.
I think they would have drifted out, but I don't know. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these anecdotes at the beginning. I mean, that just there's what's the one with the bed when they first get to the town.
So he plays a trick on traveling salesman where he says, well, he bets Steve, his friend Steve.
Is that the same Steve that ends up at the end of the I didn't catch
Steve,
that.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that. Okay.
So he bet Steve.
Oh, that's sad, yeah.
Like $10 or something like that, or $20. I mean, it was a sizable amount. That he's gonna have a bed to himself by the end of the night, right? All the beds were taken, and they usually slept double, which I was like, oh, well, okay.
No, that's normal. You hear that about the frontier.
And
Abraham Lincoln sharing a bed with people, and modern people put like a queer spin on that. Like, that's not what that is. That's just what people did in those days.
And so he's sharing the bed with this traveling salesman, convinces the guy that he has these nightmares in the middle of the night. And not to touch him if he has a nightmare because he'll get up and knife
Shoot
him.
Yeah, stab him or something, yeah.
And so the salesman, leaves, takes off with, basically in his boxer shorts, and everybody laughs at him. And that was a big prank. I really got immediately tired of the, you'll never guess the genius of this guy. This guy is the greatest genius in the entire world. And guess what he said?
Scaring a guy into not being in the bed
should
be 3 paragraphs.
Okay. Right.
That goes on for 12 pages, 15 pages,
well,
just talking about it. The whole town has a party because it's such a great great joke he plays on.
A pithy retort. He had the most eloquent, speech and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the narrator just fawns over him.
Yes.
Gushes. And I think builds him up a bit too much because he'd do a prank and it was kind of like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, it was very wah, wah. Yeah.
Right. But then again, you got to look like, would I read this in 1902 and be like, oh my God, that's the cleverest thing. I couldn't have come up with that.
Maybe this was serialized.
I don't know. Oh,
I've noticed sometimes.
No, it was. Yeah, this was taken from, it was like Harper's Magazine.
Yeah, that makes sense because sometimes the way things come together in a 350-page novel that was serialized is there's a lot of long-winded stuff where you're like, is this really worth? Is this really worth 20 pages here? Like, this is a story about a hen.
Yeah,
that just goes on and on and on. You're like, I was flipping. I was like flipping for it. I'm like,
Emily
the hen.
Yeah.
It's just crazy hen, and that never goes anywhere. It's just an anecdote, and it must have filled up one issue of Harper's.
Stupid thing just dies, just plops.
That's
dies.
it. Yeah,
that's it.
Crazy hen.
Okay.
Doesn't know how to lay eggs. And
right.
I don't really know what else to say about that.
I don't know either.
The amount of words I'm using to talk about that is the appropriate amount of words to use.
Now, if we stop talking about it right now.
Owen Wister did not do
Owen Windbag?
Owen Windbag, yes. Owen Bluster.
Owen Bluster, right.
Yes, exactly.
But he did a lot of that. But I don't know. So if this is the first, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, controversy, but if this is the first true like Western novel.
Right.
Outside of dime store stuff, then the very pedestrian things would seem novel to these people, pardon the pun, to the readers of 1902, because before that it was nothing but outlandishness, right? So it's you're starting the book in the middle of a gunfight with Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp and all this other stuff. I mean, that was the novels before. They're very thin dime store things.
But now
Pulp
it's
Fiction
from the 1890s.
But now it's mundane stuff. It's like starting a fire, smoking a pipe, talking about the distance behind you and how things just always seem close in the desert.
Well, the descriptions of the landscape and the emptiness of the wilderness and stuff, I get. Like that would have been an Eastern reader would have been like on the edge of their seat. They would have been like, "Whoa, what is this?"
But
place
it's just the stuff that would seem so foreign, right? Because they didn't have Western movies. They didn't have any Western. Nothing but the dime store stuff, which was all the fantastic stuff, right?
Yeah, it was more like superhero stories.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
Kit Carson defeats 12 natives, or, Indians all on his own, and that's what happens. He's just Captain America.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's very different. This is like almost like a bourgeois novel set in the West. It has Western moments, but there's other things.
But it's stuff like you'd think but it is that mundane stuff that nobody would have had, right? They wouldn't have known anything about ropes and barbed wire and horse. I mean, they wouldn't have known stuff like that.
Everybody knows what a hen is.
The hen aside, okay. Aside from the hen, I'm talking about
the big party.
I'm thinking about like the very first act, pretty much when they're riding from Medicine Bow to Sunk Creek, right? Which takes place over like 2 friggin' chapters.
Yeah,
But it's so mundane.
263 miles that they said, and I was like,
imagine it's like 5 days. I think
it's because the railroads basically just go across the bottom of Wyoming, where you can go through that pass near
Laramie.
There's a
great northern though. Wasn't that on top? It was on top.
I don't think that was there yet. I think that got opened up like after the wars against the Lakota. I think they were trying to push railroads and stuff up there, and that's what led to Little Bighorn essentially. Like they were putting forts up there, and some of the forts would get attacked.
Right.
And so I think they went across southern Wyoming, which is like where I'm staying, those places like Rock Springs and Cheyenne and Laramie. That's all you can kind of get through there.
And they had another 260 miles to ride.
And they're 263 miles north. So Sunk Creek must be, I think I looked it up, and it is somewhere in northern Wyoming, north central Wyoming and the Rockies. So so it's a long way that they have to go to open it up.
But what I'm saying is like the all of those things that we take for granted now, right? Because we've seen Westerns. We've I've actually never read a Western. Well, I've read a few, maybe.
I've read a few, actually.
But never I'm not like a Zane Grey or Louis L'Amour fan or anything like that.
I thought about that when I was reading this. It's not a genre. If you were like, what genre do you like? I would never think of Westerns.
Right, same here.
But I've read a couple Louis L'Amours. I've read Zane Grey.
Although,
I've read a couple others.
Star Wars is a Western. Right?
Well, but I enjoy the Westerns that I've read.
Right.
They're good books. I don't know why I don't read more of them.
You could take any Western and put blasters in their hands instead.
Pretty much,
and put them out in space, right?
Well, they had that sequence in the latest Boba Fett show where the guy's just dressed like Angel Eyes from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and he walks, and he's he's got the big broad-brimmed hat and everything.
Which they already did in The Mandalorian. They had an episode of and then Serenity was
definitely.
But that whole thing was
Civil War thing.
That whole thing was Western. But in any case,
absolutely. One of my friends lived in Telluride and invited me to come out and go to a bluegrass festival one time.
You've got some very well-heeled friends, my friend.
This guy is actually well-heeled, but I don't in general. He invited me to come out and visit him in Telluride for the bluegrass festival, and I was like, fine, yeah. So I went, and it's like, they start playing the bluegrass, and you're like, oh, it's such good music. Like, why don't I listen to this more? And then the second song comes, and you're like, oh, because it's exactly the same. There's really not a lot of It's beautiful music, but it's just, this is what I think about Western.
Sort of says
you read a Western, and you're like, this is great. Why don't I read more of this? And then you pick up the next book, and it's like indistinguishable from the last thing you read because it's a pretty narrow genre.
Well,
it's
just
the tropes from this.
They're still using it. Yeah.
It's the man who always knows what he's doing. Yeah. The way Indiana Jones is. Indiana Jones, somebody's talking about that. He just always knows what to do.
Right.
It's just kind of the way he is.
He's inventive.
Don't go into the light. How does he know that? How does he know how traps work in ancient Mayan temples or Incan temples or whatever that is? Yeah, I wrote a note asking whether he had a name. It wasn't until about 50 pages from the end where I was like, somebody calls him Jeff. I was like, okay, so he does have a name. Yeah, right. I wasn't sure if that got mentioned early about.
Some of the other characters, you've got the narrator who we really don't know a lot about. We're just kind of guessing. We do know that he was that the Cowboys are making fun of him because he has a starch collar. He mentions starch collars don't.
Yeah, he's a tenderfoot.
Definitely a tenderfoot. Not only that, he's dressed up like an Easterner, right?
Right.
And then you have Steve, who's a friend of the Virginian.
Right. Who apparently we met at the beginning of the book, and I didn't remember that.
And then we met him again at the end of the book.
Right.
Poor Steve.
Yes, poor Steve.
Steve got his neck stretched, as they would say.
Yes, there's a lynching sequence at the end, which I didn't understand at first was like extrajudicial, I guess, because they're building into the history of the I think they're called the cattle wars.
Yeah.
Where people just kind of took the law into their own hands.
Right.
Because the courts had been bought out by people that were cattle rustlers,
Right.
and that's what's going on in that sequence. It's not 100% clear until a little bit afterwards.
Yeah. It was the law of the land, and I think the sentence for like rustling was death. It was. They would,
I think it would have
they
been,
would hang them. You know, it's a matter of convenience. They're out in the middle of nowhere. The closest courthouse is, you know, who knows how far away. They just got these 3 guys.
Well, and also they've apparently been letting everybody go.
Right.
Because they were bought out. The courts were bought out.
So,
and I thought it was interesting because the judge, the woman whose name is
Molly.
Mm-hmm. Molly is like talking to the judge about Jeff the Virginian being involved in this lynching, and she's like, "Well, what do you think of lynching?" And he's like, "Well, I don't believe in like lynching black people in the South."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, that's really
it was interesting.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, he draws this paradigm between the two.
Yeah,
and then he draws a distinction between them, saying this one's bad. You know, lynching black people. It was very careful the way he said it.
Yeah.
What he said. Go back and look at what he said.
Yeah, there was a whole explanation afterwards.
So he says he doesn't say anything about it's bad to hang black people. He said it's vulgar to make entertainment out of it. That's what he objects to.
No, he draws a distinction between Southern mobs going and getting somebody out of the courthouse who's going to be hung.
Right.
Between what they're doing here, because the guy's not going to be hung, he's just going to get acquitted.
Acquitted, okay.
They just acquit these people and send them back out on the street. Right. And so that's what he's saying is the distinction.
Because
at first I thought he was just like being really noble and being like he was just against lynching black people in the South. And then he's like, no, the thing, no, they don't need to be lynched because they're going to get killed anyway for looking cross-eyed at a white woman or whatever it is.
But I thought it was he talks about the vulgarity of making a public spectacle.
He does talk about that, but that's separate.
And that's a big difference between what they did. They did it in private.
Yes,
and then making
that's the Virginian's argument. I'm talking about that's the Virginian makes that argument. The judge makes the argument about the distinction between.
So neither one of them really care about.
Neither one of them really care about. Yeah. At first, I was like, "Oh, isn't that great? This character's like against lynching." In 1902, unfortunately, that's a pretty forward-thinking opinion.
You know, I think in the first 10 or 15 pages, it tells you the perspective of the writer. In about the first 15 pages, when they're talking about the salesman. Okay, who are the salesmen? Well, there's the American, there's the Dutch, there's the 2 Jews.
Yeah, but they're both called Jews.
They're both called Jews.
Just because they're salesmen.
Right.
Yes, right.
But
so we get a dig in at the Jews. We get a dig in, not so much of a dig, but a callous disregard for black people.
They used the N-word a couple of times.
It was the same thing with the discussion of the Indians.
Yeah.
At first, you know, some of the, you know, Shorty's talking about it, and he's like, oh, they're just moving from one ground to the other to visit friends. There's nothing to worry about. You don't need to be afraid of them or anything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's a pretty
that's exactly what
enlightened
I thought.
attitude.
I was exactly the same.
And then
it goes downhill.
Yeah, and then as soon as they run into some natives,
they become bloodthirsty
they just go
killers.
for them, try to kill them for no reason.
Which again, is that tropey? Is that just one of the tropes? You know,
I think that's something that was in the mind of Americans on the frontier. Like going back to Jamestown.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it was true, but I think people were always afraid. There was 250 years of that, of just when the Saratoga campaign, the British made the mistake of using some Indian irregulars to go along with them, and a story got out that the Indian irregulars had murdered a white woman in her cabin, and it was the reason so many Americans showed up to join the army to fight against the British and won the Battle of Saratoga.
Yeah.
It was like the one thing that you could count on to just stir people up everywhere.
Well, I think also the French used Native Americans heavily.
Yes. That was
during
before
the French-Indian War.
Right. Yeah. Which was another thing that the British could easily say, these French, they're coming after you and they're using the Indians against you, and that's brought everybody out with their musket. Mm-hmm. So I think this lurked in the minds of white settlers for the first couple centuries of America.
Right.
True or not, I don't think Owen Wister had to explain why the Indians were trying to kill this guy. Because in my mind, I'm like, what are they doing? Why do they want to kill this dude? He's just a guy walking along with his horse.
Right.
I think in his mind, he's just like, Indians see a white guy, they try to kill him.
Although
it's like running into a bear or a wolf.
I think we talked about the book, is it Empire of the Summer Moon?
Yes, that's the one about the Comanche.
Oh, Comanche, rather. And they were pretty unhappy with being on the reservation, and they would often leave and go do what they used to do.
Yeah.
And the Army spent a lot of time rounding them back up and saying, get back to the reservation.
Yeah, that part of it's true in this region, definitely. Yeah. It was a question of trying to put the Lakota, Cheyenne, the Arapaho, everybody onto reservations, and nobody wanted to stay. Wind River Reservation, for instance, Pine Ridge, not nice places to live.
No, of course not. Well, they didn't give them any food. They didn't give them anything they promised.
Not to mention there was very little ability to keep them on reservations
broken treaties
in those days because there were hardly anybody out there. You just had a handful of.
But I think it's really Wister's audience is, so Wister comes from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And he comes from the.
You're the Owen Wister expert here. I know.
I don't think so. But he comes from the very gentrified.
He does talk about Philly a couple of times in the book.
He's a very gentrified person. His dad's a physician.
I see.
Owns a lot of property and so forth in Pennsylvania. Wister went to Harvard, where he was good friends with Teddy Roosevelt. They became friends in college at the Porcelain Club, which is kind of like their Skull and Bones from Yale. But
I'd like to go to a party and hang out with Teddy Roosevelt circa 1890. I think that would be a lot of fun.
But the two of them had a lot. They were both like infatuated with the West. They both wanted to go and travel. And they both wanted to learn about the Indians and all that other stuff. So they're a lot alike in that respect. But anyway, that's who he's writing to. He's writing to that audience. He's writing to Easterners in 1902, and they would have had an idea of the bad Indians already. They would have just had that in their mind. I mean, because that was myth by that point, right?
Yeah, well, this is written 12 years after Wounded Knee. So, I mean, you do not have a lot of resistance anymore. This is a tale of the past.
But it's all,
But you have that sort of Eastern, they used to refer to it as like an enlightened mentality, that essentially the best thing we could do for Native people was to transition them into being white people. And, their day was over. And so it's weird that they talk about them this way. I guess probably the mentality is that these particular braves that are lurking in the woods and attacking somebody are the ones that we're trying to acculturate away from that sort of behavior.
By the way, we're talking about a scene in the book. It's towards the middle end of the book where he's taking some horses back to the
Balaam the horse beater.
Balaam the horse beater
leaves him for dead, basically.
He's taking some horses back to his ranch, and
you're right. It's probably Balaam. I don't know why I'm pronouncing it like some character from the Bible. Balaam.
I don't know.
It's a double A. It's so weird looking.
I don't know. Anyway, so he's taking some horses back to his ranch, and he gets ambushed by some Indians,
unspecified,
literally off the reservation.
I believe they talk about Wind River, so it's probably Arapaho.
Yeah.
But I don't really know. I don't think it mattered to
I don't
people
think,
like
they
Owen
don't
Wister.
care. They don't care.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's kind of the scene that we're talking about, and the Virginian gets pretty beat up and shot.
Shot. I didn't catch that. I thought it was an arrow wound at first, but he was shot. So
and left for dead, and then Molly rescues him, and that's kind of the turning point, the pivot for her, where she decides that she's in love with him. And it's okay. Well, let's talk about that then. That's a good segue.
It goes on forever.
How much would you put up with?
This brought back flashbacks.
Did it?
It did. My first serious girlfriend when I was in high school, just the way this woman acts is what this girl was like. It was like everything was up in her head. She had all these ideas and things, and like the way we could go about dating and stuff. Oh, the letters we had to write to each other and stuff like that, and how long I put up with it before finally snapping after like a year and a half.
And just for those who haven't read the book, for the 5 people that listen to the show, and I know that probably 4.5 of you haven't read the book. So Molly is from
Get through half the book.
She's from New Haven. Is that right?
She's from Bennington, Vermont.
Bennington, Vermont. Thank you.
Which that might be a stand-in for Burlington. I've never heard of Bennington. It could be a real place.
Anyway, but okay, so she's from Vermont, and she's from a very respectable old colonial family.
Which is weird because I've been to Vermont.
Yeah.
Like Vermont and Wyoming have a great deal in common, actually. They're kind of cold. They're mountainous. Like they're very rural. Like
sort of backwoods.
Yeah, I mean there wouldn't have been.
But I think
grizzly bears.
They keep talking about the colonial heritage, though.
Yeah,
like she can trace her family back to the Mayflower type of stuff.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Anyway, and so they're a respectable family. Don't have a lot of money, but they have respect and they have class and the name. Type of thing, and so she decides she's bored and needs money.
It's a pretty typical story of like the new man falling in with like a woman who's from a respectable family, but they don't have money anymore. So
Romeo and Juliet? No, not Romeo.
No, not Romeo and Juliet. But there's stories like that. I can't think of a good but it's a common story. Like he's the one with all the talent, and she's got the name, and they bring that together, and that's a pretty sensible match in a lot of ways if you think about it.
So she comes down to be the school teacher at Bear Creek, I think it's called. Is that right? Yeah. which is in the area of the Virginian's ranch. And, of course, he falls madly in love with her, and she doesn't want to...
Like, immediately. They meet, and he does kind of the Sir Walter Raleigh thing. He kind of like... Anyway, so he does sort of a thing like that,
Chivalrous,
like saving her from... a chivalrous rescue in the water, and steals her handkerchief and hangs on to it.
Stands up for her when Trampas is saying that she's good in the sack or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I didn't quite get it.
Well, nobody could ever refer to anything in any way other than hugely oblique, so we have no idea what they're talking about.
I don't know what he's saying. But anyway, so...
Like, okay, here's one. Before I forget about it, the bit where Balaam gets angry at his horse, gets up on the horse, and then the Virginian's like, and then I saw him do something unspeakable, and then he like beats the dude up. I was like, what did he do to the horse? It was unspeakable.
I think it was.
I thought he was like beating. Did he like molest the horse? Is that what happened there?
No, I think it was.
I mean, yeah, I would.
I thought that first. I was like, "What was it?" But then I reread it. So what happens?
I read it like 3 times.
He beats the crud out of the horse.
Okay.
And the horse is like, "Whoa," and plus the horse is dead tired.
Is this Keanu Reeves playing this horse?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Plus the horse is like super tired,
sweating like a horse.
He gets up on the horse, rides like 6 feet, and then the horse just collapses underneath him.
Right.
I think he was reacting to that, like what he drove the horse to.
Oh, okay.
Because he beats the crud out of him while the horse is on top of him.
Okay, so he says he looks over and he sees the guy up on the horse looking like he's not paying attention to much of anything, and then suddenly went about his business at some That's the way he refers to it. And then the Virginian snaps and jumps up and beats the dude up, and I was like, what in God's...
That's all I could think of was that when the horse collapsed, that was the final straw for him.
Yeah.
Like when he drove him to that, and he just went nuts. I don't know.
Might be a little horse molestation going on. I don't know. We'll see.
I certainly hope not. But, who knows? They were crazy back then.
That's true. How do you feel about the spelling of canyon? It's really weird. There's a couple of spelling things.
Cards,
but that's okay. So we need to talk about
the accent.
That's the dialect. Okay, that's supposedly the dialect of the Virginian. I grew up in Virginia, so I encountered some people who were from the South.
To me once.
Well, well, he's probably, where did he say he was from? He said he had a bunch of Scots-Irish ancestry, so probably in Appalachia somewhere up in the mountains. But he's got this accent that's written down, and it's Kjards. It comes up. And I'm like, Kjards? Who says Kjards? What part of Earth is Kjards? Is not an accent that anybody in the South. That does not represent Southern dialect in any way.
It's difficult to read.
He takes the word "you" and spells it as Y-U'.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that just reads as "you."
I think it's supposed to be.
You can just
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's yeah.
Why not just write Y-E? That's traditional.
I don't know.
What are you doing over it, right? Then you write Y-E.
Again, he was kind of making it up as he went along. I mean, I don't know.
Clearly is what I'm saying. Clearly, this man is not a dialect coach.
But I don't know if anybody how anybody before him wrote it, though.
So, the movie Trainspotting, the book Trainspotting, is like hugely written in Scottish dialect.
Yeah.
And when you start reading it.
But that's now, though.
But what I'm saying is, it's so accurate that you start reading it and you're doing the accent in your head. I kept trying to do that with this, and what was coming out sounded like nothing that any human has ever uttered. Yeah. It was terrible dialect.
I guess he was phonetically trying to, the way he thought. I don't know.
He was writing it phonetically the way a Bulgarian might understand the way someone from another part of America, like a Minnesota accent. It made no sense.
Oh, that's true. I can't defend him on that.
No,
anyway,
I don't think it's defensible. I think
that was difficult.
Yes.
First in here. So the first use of smile when you say that.
Is that a phrase? I read that too. Smile when you say that.
I think John Wayne said that in at least one of his movies, like smile when you call me that or something like that. It's been used before.
Sounds like something Rooster Cogburn would say. Yeah,
type of thing. But he says it to Trampas when Trampas calls him a son of a.
Yeah.
He never finishes that line.
What?
Son of a what?
Why do they leave me hanging like that?
And
son of a perfectly respectable mother.
You son of a person from Virginia.
Yeah.
And then first duel. This is the first depiction of a duel.
The first showdown. Not the first duel, obviously.
Which
is actually
first showdown, I was like, wait a minute. I mean, Wyatt Earp had happened. No, Wyatt.
That's in reality.
Didn't that?
Yes, Tombstone Showdown's like 1876.
Okay.
That's or something like that. But but this is the first one in literature, and it's the first gunfight showdown.
But the dime store, surely the dime store stuff would have had it, right?
I think so, but maybe not written that way.
But
maybe
I guess
not,
in a novel,
maybe not like what this is like when you watch High Noon. It's 2 hours and you're just building up to this one confrontation.
Right.
You see it coming, and it's a different kind of showdown.
And I thought,
and I think it's based on. I think Mark Twain blamed the Civil War on Sir Walter Scott because of all the ideas of chivalry and stuff like that were in these books. And this is one of the books that the Virginian gets from his girlfriend. Is Kenilworth by Sir Walter Scott. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, he's probably taking that idea of the duel from, like, the Middle Ages or whatever, and then bringing it into Western literature, and then that's where we get High Noon and the showdown. And the tombstone thing happened, but probably was turned into a trope afterwards, if you know what I mean.
Well, Tombstone, I think they came with their guns out already. And they just started blazing.
I think some people just started shooting each other. Yeah, it wasn't
but I will say
in the film it takes them all day to build up to the fight, and everybody's getting ready for the fight, you know. And
I will say the way he wrote it was pretty fantastic.
It's good.
It was such a great scene.
The last 50 pages of the book, the whole bit where they're up in the mountain, going after Trumpus and Shorty, and then the showdown. Yeah, I was turning pages. That was good. That was well written. I enjoyed that. It was worth. I kept thinking at the beginning of the book, I was like, oh, there better be something good at the end of this book because this is tiresome. Yeah. This language is tiresome.
Yeah, it really. Yeah.
There's just some long-winded. Like we were saying before the show, we got to talking, which we should never do because we waste intellectual and comedy gold doing it that way. We were talking about there's a pre-Hemingway world and there's a post-Hemingway world, and Owen Wister is deeply rooted in the pre-Hemingway world.
Concrete.
Where why say something in one word when you could use 46? Right. You know, like it's just going on and on and on.
But the way he writes the duel, though,
right?
It's kind of like when you're in a daze and something happens and you just react, because that's what he did, right?
Yeah.
You don't really know what's happening. It says like the wind moved his shirt, and it's like, oh, okay, and then the other arm moved all on its own. Suddenly, Trampus lurched over, and then you're like, "Oh, he shot him."
Oh, the actual shooting goes by. I had to go back.
Yeah, me too.
I was like, "Wait, did the shooting just happen?" Because mine has illustrations. Does your book have illustrations?
No.
Mine had illustrations, and there was like a lithograph of dead Trampus, and I was like, "Wait, did Trampus? Where did I?"
How did that happen? And it's like, but the wind moved his arm. I'm like, "Oh, the bullet grazed him."
He said because he says the bullet must have gone close to my arm. Is that what that meant?
Because the wind. He's like, the wind moved his shirt suddenly, and then he's like, suddenly the other arm, all on its own accord. So it's like he's like in a daze, doesn't know what's happening, and just reacted. Right, shot him twice, which I thought was cool. I think he shot him when he was on the ground.
I mean, if you have a revolver, why not fire multiple times?
Right?
Why like shoot once?
Yeah.
Hope you killed him. Look around. Oh, I'll shoot again.
Yeah, I'll shoot again. But I thought it was really. I thought the way he did that was pretty cool. That was.
No, it's a good bit. I enjoyed all that. That was well written. It was like he had to go through with it. He had to go through with the showdown because he couldn't be seen to be a coward. Western trope completely. Because in real life, you probably would just like leave, right? If you're going to get killed, maybe. Why would you? But it's all that Sir Walter Scott stuff. Yeah. That's why he's a Virginian probably has like that chivalrous code. That was definitely something that people believed about the South, more so than other people. It's just a thing that goes through Westerns.
Right.
It's just that idea that a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Right. And you got to have that showdown, even though it meant the girl he waited 3 years to get with.
He had to walk out on her.
Yeah, that she was like, it's me or this gunfight.
He's like, I'll see you. Well, in that case, I could never see you again.
It's like those T-shirts. You know, my wife told me if I buy another baseball card, she'll leave me. Boy, am I going to miss her. Yeah. There's a bit where, what is the animal? Oh, he's talking to the narrator. And the Virginian's being really quiet, and then suddenly shoots.
Oh, shoots a rattlesnake. Yeah.
And I was like, that is in so many things.
Yeah.
Like in Predator, when the guy's talking to him, and he just goes over and stabs the scorpion.
Well, that's in Temple of Doom.
It's in Temple of Doom with the snake coming down next to her. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I was thinking about that. There's a million examples
of stuff. All right, so let me tell you about the controversy. So this is So we're calling this like the first true Western novel, right?
Okay.
Feminist historian.
Okay.
One disputes that and says that there is a book called The Administratrix, which is published in 1889 by a woman.
Silly Clint. Administratrix is for kids.
Right. By a female writer named Emma Ghent Curtis, who lived in Colorado. Now I'm gonna read you the summary of her book. Okay.
Okay.
Now remember, this is an academic, whom I am an academic. as well.
That is a true statement.
Although I am not a feminist historian. And her position is that this book is actually the very first Western novel.
Okay.
Mary, the novel's protagonist, is a school teacher who moves from Indiana to Colorado. So it's basically like taking Mary's point of view, right?
Sure.
She falls in love with a cowboy named Jim, who is a vocal advocate for women's rights.
Do you know where the first place in America where women could vote was? Wyoming.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right around this time, actually, weirdly enough.
When Jim is murdered, Mary cross-dresses as a cowboy in order to find his killers and get revenge.
Okay.
This novel is the first outside of the dime novel tradition to feature a cowboy as the main character, according to this particular academic. Would you agree?
I'd have to read it or know when
based
it
on
was
that,
written. I think that's like a historical argument. I mean,
based on that summary?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, because it's from a different perspective, though.
It's from a different perspective, and it sounds like I don't think it would have a lot of the tropes that we'd be looking for. This is so, I mean, that could be a historical fact that comes before it and it is a Western novel. That's fine. But this one, I think, is the germ of so many things that we see in Western films and books going forward. I mean, there's just a lot of things. You're talking about somebody who used to be in the Civil War, and now they go and they move out west, and now they're better than everybody else. And that's the one thing you always notice about these guys in these Westerns is that they can afford to be such a good guy because they're so much better than everyone else. Like the Virginian can be super genteel and super cool when people are messing with him because he knows he'll always win the fight if there's a fight.
Or everybody else is completely stupid.
Right.
And he's kind of the one shining light bulb in the pack.
But I used to always think about that with these kinds of things. It's like you couldn't afford to be such a tough guy if you weren't just better than everybody. So it's like you're blessed. It's like some kind of weird privileged situation where you're like, well, I'm the best in a fight, so I can be the cool guy. Toshiro Mifune and the samurai movies. Samurai is a genre very much like the Western, right? They're very you can plant one on together. Sure. It's like an older ideal of masculinity, and that got Japan into trouble in the 20th century.
How so?
Well, some bad things happened to them. They did some bad things.
I should go read Wikipedia about Japan.
You should. You should. You should. There's a thing called WWII that didn't go very well for the Japanese.
I have a Wii.
But I think it's kind of it's similar to the American fascination with Westerns because it's this old idea of how a man should behave.
Right.
Really doesn't have anything to do with how a man should behave in 2022.
But
it's fascinating.
Or how a man really behaved.
Right.
It's just
nobody really ever acted that way.
It's romanticizing.
Yes, exactly.
It's the concept or the myth of it.
Right. Samurai movies never show a samurai slaughtering peasants for no reason.
Which they did all the time.
Which is a thing that they did.
Yeah,
because they could.
Time.
There was no check on their power. And we don't see a whole lot of the Virginians not he does admit to some of the wild living, the whoring and the gambling and stuff like that. There's a little bit of it. He's kind of
about the whoring.
That's what I'm saying. When he's talking to the guy about sex later in the book, and he's admitting that he was wild. Even the narrator's like, well, go back to that.
Wait, what?
Expound upon that.
Sure.
We should probably talk about the relationship with the narrator. The narrator, is it just me or is he totally gay for the Virginian?
He's certainly...
I don't think that's intended by Owen Wister, but when I'm reading it... If I'm hanging out with Clint and I'm just going on and on about how handsome you are, and every once in a while you smile, and I'm like, oh, his smile, I'd never seen anything like it. It's not the way a straight man talks about another man.
But he always say, if I was a woman, he'd always say that.
I don't say that about other guys. I don't say, if I was a woman, ooh, the way he smiled would have just melted my britches.
Right.
I don't talk that way. No. I don't think that way or talk that way. It's just you. It's just you.
Did I say? I didn't say that.
It's just you. I'm going to steal some ice here. Whoop, that's mostly water. Whatever. There you go. You can have the last of the ice. It's good whiskey. I'm enjoying the whiskey.
Very good whiskey. So you want to know about Owen Wister?
Seems like I should know more about it. You know what the saddest part of the book is, by the way?
I'm gonna save that for our biggest surprise stuff.
Biggest surprise?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the saddest part of the book?
Saddest part of the book is when poor Shorty has to sell Pedro, the horse.
That kills you, doesn't it?
Shorty, they give you Shorty's whole story about how he was like a kid in Brooklyn and his only friend was a cat. Yeah. And he has this woman that took advantage of him.
His whole life is tragic. It's nothing but tragedy.
And then Balaam takes his horse, and poor Shorty's crying and kissing the horse goodbye and stuff. And then Balaam just kills the horse.
Kills the horse.
Murders.
Well, the way Shorty, he's like, "Hey, I'm back. I got the money to buy my horse back." He's like, "Well, you're a day too late. He died yesterday." It's like, what?
The movie No Country for Old Men, which is like a modern Western in a way,
sure.
It's sort of the idea that if you're not a perfect tough guy, get out of the West. You have no business out here. This is not a country for weak people.
Yeah.
And that's what Shorty is. I think it's just like a story of, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
Go be a clerk in an office in Brooklyn.
I think the Virginian said as much when he first.
He does. He's talking, and again at the end, he kind of reiterates that about
Yeah.
Shorty, and it's just that's what everything bad keeps happening to Shorty. But you look at it, and it's like, well, it's because he was weak in this time, and then he was weak in that time, and he's just not cut out for it. You just don't have the. So Trumpus is never portrayed as being.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about feeling bad for him, especially with the bottom part. So Balaam takes advantage of Shorty's mental deficit and kind of outsmarts him and tricks him into selling his prized possession, which is his pony.
Right.
And Shorty says something to the effect of, if he hadn't gone and gambled all of his money away, he'd be fine.
Right.
Well, that's on Shorty, and I think that's the point.
Sure.
Is that life didn't make him this way.
But it wasn't. He gambled.
Shorty.
But who did he lose his money to? Lost his money to Trumpus because Trumpus was manipulating. So clearly, Shorty's weakness was he was constantly being manipulated by everybody.
Yeah, but he didn't have to start gambling, right? He
got manipulated into gambling by this guy that had already basically owned him in every other way. And
that's a rational way to think of it. But I think it's meant to portray like, you make your destiny type of thing. Like you make your decisions, because that's very much how they felt at that time. In 1902, it was pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I mean, that was very much kind of in the.
But I also think that they thought that certain people were people of quality that could do things for themselves.
Well, that's certainly true.
It was like a meritocracy, in other words. It was like, don't come out to the West if you're the kind of guy that gets led by the nose by other men, because that's exactly what's going to happen to you. You're going to end up dead. Your horse is going to be dead. You're going to be dead.
Yeah.
Shot as a horse thief for no reason. No, sorry, murdered by one of your horse thieving buddies.
Friends, yeah.
It's not even really so much like a question of that Shorty could have applied himself better. It was that Shorty was not fit. Yeah. And that the Virginian is fit for every single purpose out there, and therefore will succeed.
And the Virginian recognized that quality in Shorty.
Gets the girl, wins the gunfight.
Said you don't belong here.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with you, blah, blah, blah. Did you ever see the TV show, The Virginian?
No, but I looked up a couple of apparently there's a couple of iterations of this over the
years. So there were a few movies, and I've never seen any of the movies.
Was Bill Pullman or Bill Paxton? I always get those two guys mixed up.
Bill Paxton. No.
Bill Pullman. Pullman, yeah. Right.
Yeah, Bill Pullman.
The one from Tombstone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, no. No, Bill Paxton's the one from Tombstone. Bill Pullman's the Independence Day one.
Oh, you're right. You're right. God, one of these days I'm going to get those two guys. Which one's dead? Bill Paxton's dead.
Bill Paxton's dead. But there was a TV show. Now, I know about it
starring Bill Paxton.
Starring Bill Pullman Paxton.
Okay, right.
It's always on at my in-laws' house. So there's a channel, I don't know what it's called, but there's like a channel with nothing but Westerns. My in-laws watch it religiously. That's just what they have it on, which I appreciate because it's always going to be kid-friendly.
Pretty much. It depends on how modern it is.
Well, no, depends
on the Western.
Think about this. It's totally kid-friendly. They're not going to have any nudity. They're just going to shoot a bunch of Indians. No problems at all.
From a certain era. But you wouldn't want to show your kids Deadwood.
Well, that's true.
I remember my dad used to watch Deadwood. True. And my little nephew, my dad was like watching my nephew when he was a baby. And that scene at the beginning,
a particular word.
There's like an opening to the show where there's like a lady naked lifting herself in the bathtub. I remember my nephew just whatever he was doing, he would drop what he was doing and watch.
That,
I was like, all right, do that.
So the Virginia was on from 1962 to 1971.
Okay. Well, that wasn't with Bill Pullman then.
That was definitely not with Bill Pullman.
The Bill Pullman one must have been in the 90s.
That was a movie though.
Yeah.
That wasn't a TV show.
Oh, I thought it was sort of a. Like they used to do like a mini series.
Maybe it was.
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
So they changed it up just a little bit. It's the Shiloh Ranch. Trampus is his friend.
Okay.
In the TV show.
More interesting. I get that.
And Steve is also his friend.
Right.
Trampus is played by an actor named Doug McClure. I just thought it was really interesting that they kind of deep-sixed the entire book, made Trampus, and I guess it was just because they were recognizable characters or something.
Well, also because this book has about 4 episodes worth of material. It's not that much happens.
Well, no, it has. I would say it has 9 years worth of material just in the dialogue and the narrative and the anecdotes and.
Well, if you had one episode, it was just an anthology of how to understand the way this guy writes dialect. Like just explaining.
Well, you can have one episode of nothing.
No, this
nothing
does
but
not
the
track
bed
to any human language that has ever existed.
Nothing but the bed prank.
Yes. Yes, the bed prank.
That would be
the
one
hen.
episode.
One whole episode about that hen.
The
frog story. Ooh, don't get me started on that. Oh, that frog story was hilarious. Oh.
But he's such a genius.
Yes, what a genius.
I think
I got so many belly laughs.
I think you're right. I think the narrator. I think the narrator had
8 pages that were dedicated.
I think
to
the narrator had more than admiration for this guy. I think you're right.
Yeah. He's definitely like, if I come to you and I tell you for an hour and a half about a frog story some guy told me and how handsome this guy was, I think you know what's going on there.
Well, the worst part about the stupid frog story is it's a prank that he pulls, by the way, dear listeners. And
no, this is the tall tale.
It's the tall tale.
Yeah, they have like a tall tale telling competition.
And he defeats like mutiny in his crew by telling
tall tailing.
It's just totally ridiculous. Okay, so
yeah, it's weird.
I think it's about time. Biggest surprise.
So I knew it was going to be an influential book. I figured it was an early Western. I did not know how seminal this book was.
Yeah.
Like the concept that this was the first big showdown surprised me. I really that one caught me off guard. Otherwise, it was pretty much what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's old-fashioned, it's hokey. But that's okay. I can kind of deal with that in its place. But the showdown being like the first showdown that ever happened. When I read the book and I was like, oh, this is kind of like a showdown happening here. And then when I looked it up afterwards and they were like first showdown, I was like, okay, that's actually pretty impressive. Like footnote to the. I'm glad I read that afterwards because it felt like it might be the first one.
I always try to like put myself in to the mindset of somebody in 1902 reading this.
Right. Try to. It's so difficult.
It is, but like all of this would have been a first to them.
Right.
All of it, you know. I mean, we're so used to, tall, dark, handsome, brooding, quiet. Well, everything I said about the archetype, right? But, they would have known nothing about it. This would have been completely unique to them.
A lot of the time when someone creates something new, for instance, you talked about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
The thing that made Star Wars, I think, feel kind of fresh to people were a couple of like aesthetic tweaks, but essentially it was like taking a Western and applying it to sci-fi and doing like, what if sci-fi and a Western mixed together and this is what it was like? That really had never been done before.
Right.
And I think to some extent, this is somebody thinking like, oh, the American West and all these blood and thunder epics, people like the violence and stuff like that. What if I took the works of Sir Walter Scott and duels and like chivalric romance and I applied them to the rest?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And it gave birth to a new thing.
Yeah. That's a great point.
So it wasn't entirely new to people. It was like they could, but it probably came across as very fresh, the way like Star Wars would have when you first saw it. You would have been like, whoa, there's nothing 100% new in this, but it's coming together in a new way.
Especially when like imagine like Musk finally settles Mars, right?
Okay.
We're stuck on Earth. Okay, just imagine we didn't have Total Recall, the docudrama,
right?
Total Recall.
Blue sky on Mars.
Hagen, you got what you want. Give these people air. Thank you.
Get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars. There's this whole frontier out there, and we know nothing about it, or we know very little.
Right.
And then somebody writes.
Just getting word back every once in a while. But we could never
but
be,
somebody
even with
writes
Mars.
some type of epic.
Even with what happened on Mars, we could never be as starved for information as we would be.
Yeah, that's true.
As they would have been.
Well, we have the Martian Chronicles. Who wrote that? Roddenberry?
That's Bradbury.
Bradbury.
Ray Bradbury. The same guy you're not a big fan of.
Yeah.
The guy that was writing pre-Hemingway and post-Hemingway times.
God, that guy can go on.
Yeah,
Talk about
definitely.
bloviating.
You know, I was thinking about this whole thing that's going on in Ukraine right now, and I've been kind of trying to follow the news and stuff, and I was thinking it's not like what it would have been if you were in the East trying to imagine what the West was like in 1890 or whatever, but the flow of information is such that I don't know what's going on there, and it's like I want to know more what's going on, and I'm like thirsty for information, and it kind of puts you back in the perspective, because we need to know like almost like real time what's going on there. Like, are people starting to shoot each other? Or the Russian tanks across the border? Like,
we're hearing all kinds of stuff.
We're recording this on the night of February the 18th. The sun comes up in Kiev in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And the Russians have 190,000 troops poised to go. And daybreak seems like a good time to attack to me. So I'm like just waiting to hear that it popped off.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest war in Europe since Kursk. I don't know. It's just that the flow of information just makes me feel like sometimes you can't actually be starved for real information, even in the 21st century.
Even today.
We won't know what's actually happening there
till
way after it's over.
Okay, not to segue, but I have to give you my biggest surprise.
Sure.
So there is a line in there when a narrator has already gone back to New York.
Right.
It's like chapter 4, chapter 5. And he's writing back and forth. He and the Virginian are corresponding.
Writing letters to each other again.
Yeah. And the Virginian says, "I'd like to see you poco presently," as they say in Los Cruces.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get that?
I do. I do remember him talking about Las Cruces.
Los Cruces.
Los Cruces,
I like
he
to
says.
see you poco presently, as they say in Los Cruces. And I thought, and by the way, dear listeners, we are in Las Cruces.
We are living in Los Cruces right now.
So I started wondering, did Owen Wister actually ever visit Las Cruces? Mm-hmm. And this is what I found. He traveled to New Mexico from the East Coast in 1894, and he stayed with Frederick Remington. Do you know who that is?
The gun guy?
No, the artist.
Oh, the artist. Yeah. Yes, I do know who that is.
The sculptor and painter.
Yeah. Yes.
He stayed with his friend Frederick Remington in New Mexico for 2 years, 1894 and 1895.
Where did Remington live?
He lived in a place called, at a ranch called Apache Tejo, which is 12 miles southwest of Silver City, New Mexico.
Oh, okay. Southwest, so it's Lordsburg.
He spent 2 years in this area. I had no idea.
That's neat.
The inspiration for the Virginian was the foreman of the ranch. His name was Dean Duke.
Okay.
So that's where he
So actually
got
in New Mexico.
But actually New Mexican, yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy. That's cool.
So that was my biggest surprise. I was like, wow, look at that. That's kind of cool. I saw that line and I was like, Los Cruces, which it totally did wrong, but
right.
I'm like, huh. Anyway, I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
so,
that's neat. It said I foisted.
You did foist.
I did the foisting.
Okay,
so
you did foist.
I
so
in my opening statements,
mm-hmm.
I would, and I've said some of this before, but the influence of the book, huge. I think, we could agree. Deals with a lot of themes that are going to be dealt with in the way that somebody said that philosophy is just a series of footnotes commenting on Plato. Mm-hmm. The Western, in a lot of ways, is a series of footnotes commenting on themes brought up in this book.
Right.
And, in America in general, and American mindset in general. But the influence is huge. I genuinely, 120 years after this book was written, the 50 pages there at the end, I was into that. That was well written. I dug the part chasing the horse thieves, everything from the lynching, actually. Up to when he gets back together with the girl, and the honeymoon bit I could have skipped. Yeah. Whatever. That didn't bother me. But there's about 50 pages there where I was like, this is good. I'm enjoying this. This is a fun read. And anything that could hold up that well after 120 years, I think gets my nod. The ball is in your court as the foistee.
Okay, so that's only 50 pages out of 300 and something.
True. I did not say this was in the classics of the brevity
canon. But again, how do you look at these things? Do you look at them in from the perspective of where they're from? It's kind of like, how do you judge Thomas Jefferson? He owned slaves.
Well,
right?
It would be wrong to ding this book on how it treats natives, for instance.
Right.
That's not something we would write today. We would want those to be characters, the human beings.
So I guess it also would be wrong to ding it on the prose.
Writing the way people wrote back then. I mean, honestly, we just did H.G. Wells, and H.G. Wells is not exactly choosing his words very carefully.
Right.
I mean, he's talking a lot when he doesn't need to talk that much.
That's true. I would toast this.
Okay.
I'll be generous and toast this. I think I am being a little bit generous, but just because of the legacy.
It's important. Yeah, it's an important book. It's an important book, and it's not entirely boring. I mean, I did enjoy the book in the second half, especially. So.
And what's interesting, if you think about it, the whole man with no name spaghetti western thing was the anti-hero. Right. He was the anti-Virginian.
He's not this guy.
Yeah,
definitely
and
not.
Everything
this guy.
up to 1964 or whenever that came out, 68 when they made that.
Something like that.
Was the Virginian, basically, just
more or less.
A different name. Then it came to
definitely the main character in High Noon is this guy.
Yeah, but then it came to Blondie, and Blondie, is not. Yeah. He doesn't talk very much. He's brooding and everything else, but he also doesn't have the same morals. He's a little bit more.
He does underneath, but it's. We did this already, but I think that character is more like what you'd have to be, at least presenting a front of being a bad guy, just to survive in the West.
It's true.
I don't think you could walk around like this guy. And although this version of the West is not as bloody and gritty as what we're used to, and I don't know what's more real.
Now that's what I was wondering.
Was it really that bad?
I was wondering about that because, for example, I one of the things I wrote down in my notes was. He didn't really talk about the guns. He just mentions...
Not at all. I said that. I said there's no technical information about guns. He mentions their revolvers.
He had a gun.
Revolver, rifle.
Yeah, he had a gun. Yeah. Oh, he had a gun. He took his gun out. Yeah. Shot this with his gun. But that was it. Yeah. Now it's like gunplay all the time.
Oh, sure.
They talk about the type of gun.
Well, a lot of the people who would read lots of Western novels would be really into guns. I think we
maybe. You're probably right. But back then, at the time... probably even in 1902, out west,
guns would have been taken for granted.
A gun was a tool.
Yeah.
It was like a hammer. It really was like a lasso or something like that. You used it to kill a snake or kill a coyote or whatever, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, it's far more like that here even today than like where I grew up. Mm-hmm. Somebody having a gun in their house where I grew up would have been like,
big deal.
What is going on? Why do you have a gun in your house? You know, But anyway, so you're toasting.
I am toasting. Yeah.
All right.
Let's
so
toast.
Here it comes.
Cheers.
There you go. Toasting the Classics has certified the Virginian by Owen Wister.
You are safe to read it.
You are safe to read it.
That's right.
You're safe to read it. Expect I wouldn't say a slog. It's not that bad. Mm-hmm. But expect the second half to be the best part.
You know how they have banned book lists? Yeah. We should try to get certified.
Just ban the first 8.
No,
the frog story.
Yeah, well, that too. No, we should try to have some certified list from us.
Yeah, sure.
So that people can go and read
this one will be
books.
part of understanding the Western as a book. This one would be a fairly entertaining read in the second half, and it's 120 years old. So if something that old's still entertaining, I say go ahead and read it. Yeah. That's worth something. So I think we're done for the week.
All right,
we'll see you next time. We don't know. It's up to you, and it's a film.
It is a film. You ready?
What is your film?
The Jazz Singer.
Really? Okay.
First talkie.
Okay, the first talkie. Is that Al Jolson?
Al Jolson.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Bad legacy. I know that because of the blackface.
There's a little bit of minstrelly feel to it.
Blackface.
I have never seen it, so I don't know.
But
isn't Al Jolson black?
No.
Okay.
Very, very
all
much
right. Well, there you go. That shows what I know.
Very much.
Biggest surprise of the movie. Turns out Mr. Jolson is not an African American.
That's right. I think that's 1927, 1928.
Something like that. It's around the same time as Steamboat Willie.
But it changed history.
Okay.
Made history. Right?
That's interesting. I have selected my free choice, but I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm not going to tell you on air.
Okay.
So, all right, we are done. See you next time on Toasting the Classics. Peace out.
Peace.
That's it for episode 46 of Toasting the Classics. For those playing along at home, look at your podcast queue to see what we'll be drinking next week while we talk about the world's first talking picture, The Jazz Singer. If you'd like to get in touch, please send us an email at toastingtheclassics@gmail.com. Send us show ideas, comments, complaints, and let us know how long you'd wait for an indecisive school teacher to heed your advances. Check out my blog at theattractivenuisance.com and follow us on Twitter at @attractivenuisance. Our music was written by Michelle McArthur. See you next time on Toasting the Classics.